Today is Tuesday, January 5, 2021, and it is the 10th day of my self-quarantine isolation that I've been asked to do after testing positive for COVID-19. I went to get tested on Friday, January the 1st, and received my positive result on Saturday the 2nd. I went to an assessment center because I was experiencing symptoms of COVID-19. My initial symptomatology looked much more like a cold or a sinus infection than anything else. And it all started on Saturday, December the 26th. I woke up feeling a little clammy and having a headache. I was a little bit congested that day as well. I started to experience a lot of fatigue throughout the day, which lasted for a total of about 3 days. I felt like I had a cold. That was my experience of the symptoms I felt. I don't often get sick. In fact, the last time I would have felt any sort of sickness was in January 2016, and it's quite rare that I do get any sort of colds or anything like that, or a sinus infection for that matter. So on the 26th, I woke up feeling clammy and with a headache, and so I didn't think too much of it, but I stayed at home. I rested. I was in bed for about 3 days. I was functioning. I just was in bed most day, feeling fatigue and feeling some muscle pain. I felt, in fact, this stiffness in my tendons. That's the best way I could describe it. The stiffness felt just kind of uncomfortable. At times at night, I had a difficult time falling asleep because I just felt like I had to move, and no matter what position I would end up in, it just wasn't always comfortable. So by Tuesday, after being in bed for 3 days, I started to feel much better. And I just want to clarify that for the onset of my symptoms back on the 26th, I never had any fever. I didn't have any shortness of breath. I never had a cough. I had at most a little bit of some runny nose, but it wasn't even a runny nose. I would just blow my nose and it would just kind of stop. At no point did I have any difficulty breathing or shortness of breath. And in fact, even though those few initial days I had a little bit of nose symptoms, I was always able to breathe through my nostrils. They were never clogged to the point where I was breathing through my mouth or anything like that. So after Tuesday, I felt much better. And then on Wednesday, I started to become quite congested to the point where I sounded very nasally when I talked, and I still certainly sound a little bit nasally. I don't sound 100% like myself. On Wednesday is also when I started to experience the symptom of loss of smell, and basically I would try to test myself by smelling a perfume that I have, and I just wasn't able to detect any scent of it whatsoever. So at that point, in terms of my symptoms, I was feeling very well overall. I was a little bit congested, and in the mornings I would have a little bit of a runny nose, but otherwise I never experienced any symptoms of shortness of breath or any onset of cough. At no point have I had any fevers. By Friday, I was getting much better, but my sense of smell was still gone, and I wanted to go and get tested. So of course the results came back positive, and I have to say that it did take me by surprise, because all along what I was feeling was sinus congestion. And even if you were to Google, loss of smell, which is anosmia, one of the most common causes of it is congestion. Now, of course, I know now that the way that this virus affects everybody, it's a little bit different. And my symptoms, thankfully, are mild and were mild all along. And for me, it affected my nasal passages. It made me congested, and I've lost my inability to smell, which starting today has thankfully come back. So today is day 10 since I started showing symptoms, which was from Saturday. So throughout the process, I've been able to stay at home, and I had a medical doctor call me, as I was told at the assessment center would be the case. In the event that you're positive, there's an MD that calls you to check up on you. obviously, given the symptoms that you present with at the testing center, they would prioritize that. And for me, when I got my assessment, my reading of O2 saturation was 99%. At no point was I sneezing or coughing at the time of my test. And so I did receive a call from the medical doctor, and they informed me of the time frame that I must isolate within, and that was 10 days from when my symptoms began. Thankfully, I've been able to heal up well. I'm happy that from the sound of it, my symptoms are a mild case of this virus and this disease process. And ultimately, I'm happy that I'm starting to get my sense of smell back, because one of the ways it affects you is it sort of plays with taste, and it certainly makes you not necessarily not want to eat, but there's this kind of loss of appetite, because I wasn't finding any pleasure in eating, so I wasn't able to really enjoy eating, and in a sense I had lost my appetite for that time. But I certainly would make sure and ensure that I would hydrate, and I would continue to eat as well. In terms of the education I've been provided with, I was told that the virus would shed in my system potentially for the next 3 months, and so if I were to test now, I would continue to be positive, potentially for the next 3 months as the virus continues to shed. I was told also that you're contagious from 2 days prior to showing any symptoms until 10-day time frame from when you do show symptoms. So thankfully, around this time is when the holiday season began, and I'm in a single household. I live by myself, and so I've had incredibly minimal contact with anybody. Thankfully, I was finished work on December the 23rd, so within that time frame, I was not in contact with anyone at any point while I was contagious in terms of anybody at work. Anybody else that I've been in contact with otherwise has been notified within the time frame of 2 days prior to me showing any symptoms. One of the questions I've gotten frequently through this whole process from my friends and family was, do you have any idea about how you could have contracted this? And the answer is no. I don't know who I got it from, better yet. I can tell you that as a healthcare practitioner, I've been incredibly careful. I've always been religiously washing my hands. I've limited any sort of contact with anybody who I don't need to see. I live by myself. I always wear a mask. And so I was not around anybody who was symptomatic, and I was not around anybody who was a confirmed positive case. And so exactly who I got this from, I'm actually not sure. Most importantly, I'm thankful that this disease for me was quite mild, all things considering. At most, I had that fatigue early on in those initial 3 days of when I started to show symptoms. So ultimately, at this day, day 10, I've been called by public health, and I've been cleared to return to my normal life starting tomorrow. And so I will continue to wear a mask. I will continue to wash my hands religiously and avoid touching my face, and to limit my contact. Currently, we're in a lockdown here in Ontario and Toronto, so I don't plan on seeing anybody, and I live by myself, so there isn't anybody that I'm in close contact with on a daily basis. I've also taken extra days off work because this sort of paranoia around me being a vector for anybody and potentially transmitting this to anybody else, even though I have been told that after day 10, since symptom onset, I'm no longer contagious and I don't have the ability to infect anybody else. However, I will be taking the rest of the week off just to allow myself to heal up, to continue to heal up. Certainly, if somebody still has symptoms, even after 10 days of symptom onset have passed, you should still be quarantining. And so I'm monitoring those symptoms, and I'm making sure that I feel as normal and as myself as I could be, and ultimately that I don't have symptoms. So I'm thankful that actually my sense of smell is returning. I was told different information about that. In some individuals, it's 2 to 4 weeks, and in others, it can be 2 to 3 months that you are without any sense of smell. Obviously, in the grand scheme of things, considering the symptoms that people do experience and the ways in which this virus can affect somebody, including, I was told, encephalitis and certainly more severe pneumonia and certainly consolidation, which then leads to all sorts of disease processes, including multi-system organ failure and those kinds of situations. So yeah, I just wanted to share with everybody my experience of having been diagnosed COVID-19 positive. Again, I'm very thankful that my case was incredibly mild, and today being day 10, and I feel much better. I want to say I'm 95% myself, so I will continue to self-isolate until I feel 100%. And I'm not exactly sure who I got this from, but overall, all things considering, I'm incredibly thankful that the case that was my situation was quite mild, and I've been able to recover quite well, including having the sense of smell come back starting today. So I just want to wish everyone a happy new year, and I hope everyone is staying safe and staying well. Like I said, I will continue to wear my mask whenever I'm outdoors. I don't plan on seeing anybody anytime soon, and I'm not returning to work anytime soon. And I will continue to wash my hands regularly, stay away from touching my face, and limit my contact with anybody as much as I can. I hope everyone stays well, and they if they have to go through something similar, that they also have a mild symptom and mild case of this disease. As we know, it certainly can be fatal for some individuals. So I hope everyone who is dealing with this right now is going through it and is getting through it, and ultimately is recovering and is beating it and surviving it. Thank you for listening, and have a good day.